Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we're going to be going over the top 10 best weapons in Killing Floor 2. Now these are solely based on my opinion. There's a lot of really good weapons in Killing Floor 2. I'm also going to be going over 5 honorable mentions towards the end of this list. This list is also not in any particular order, so feel free to move these ones around. I just thought that these were probably the 10 best overall weapons in Killing Floor 2, at least again in my opinion. So let's talk about each of them. Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have the Hemo, and the Hemo has recently been nerfed. It used to be stronger than it is now, where it had better healing, it had an extra charge in it, so it had 3 charges rather than just 2 charges, and I think it might have had a little bit more damage. The damage honestly doesn't matter, and this weapon is still one of the strongest weapons in the game. I don't think that the people that are in charge of balancing this really understood what made it so strong. It was nice that you could heal yourself more, but mostly it's an AoE panic weapon, so if you get surrounded by enemies, just pull it out and swing the heavy attack at something, and you're usually okay, because you've healed yourself up for a little bit, you've poisoned all enemies around you, you've done a lot of damage to all enemies around you, and this thing is very lightweight, as well as you can block and parry with it, just like all the melee weapons. It's also fairly cheap at only being a tier 3 weapon, only being 1200 Dosh. At our number 9 spot, we have the Centerfire. Now the Centerfire is just a fantastic gun for the amount of money that you put in for it. It's extremely cheap at only being a tier 2 weapon, yet it does 165 damage, which is more than a single 500 Magnum does. This is also stronger than any of the assault rifles per shot. This is stronger than any of the submachine guns. It's a fantastic weapon that you can get very early on that scales incredibly well with upgrades. And it's also lightweight if you just want to keep it at the tier 2 weapon. It's only a weight of 5, so you can pair it with pretty much anything else in the game unless you want to pair it with a 50 cal, and you still could do that if you're playing Survivalist. Great weapon on Sharpshooter, great weapon on Survivalist, and great weapon on Gunslinger. It's all around a really solid weapon. At our number 8 spot, we have the Heal Thrower. Now the Heal Thrower, this is specific to Medic. The Heal Thrower on any other class is pretty bad. It's not good on Survivalist because you don't give your teammates buffs, which is what makes the Heal Thrower so good. The Heal Thrower has 2 healing weapons in one. It either has the healing spraying gas that you can spray out with its primary fire. This counts towards dealing damage to all enemies. It does very little damage per second towards enemies, but it does poison them, adding more damage per second. So you can kill small Zeds very quickly with this, but large Zeds are going to take a very long time to die from the poison. This is just really useful for being able to efficiently heal your teammates from pretty much any range. It's also fantastic if you just want to hang around like the Berserker and constantly give them buffs and make them even tankier, especially if they're just holding a position like at the Watchtower and Prison. It's probably Medic's best weapon in a large group. If you're just doing this solo, then it's a pretty bad Medic weapon. It's going to take a long time to kill stuff, and it's just not as practical as going with most of their other weapons. So this is for multiplayer. This is better with more people, and this is better on Medic. So more restrictions, but it's still a really, really good weapon. Next are the 500 Magnums for Gunslinger. These weapons are incredibly strong. They have very high damage per second, long range, and combined with Gunslinger's other skills, they are just fantastic. You can also punch through multiple enemies with these. You can body shot small enemies. Headshotting large Zeds kills pretty much anything very quickly. Just an all-around really solid weapon on Gunslinger. And speaking about really solid weapons on Gunslinger, at number 6 we have the Deagles. Dual Desert Eagles on Gunslinger are really strong. You have a really high rate of fire, fast reloads, high damage per shot. You also have some penetration, so you can punch through multiple enemies, and they do scale well with upgrades. They're all around really good. They're also priced really well at just being a tier 3 weapon, so not too expensive for you to get pretty early on. And even if you just go with one of them, one Desert Eagle or one 500 Magnum is good. You can take it on other classes. It's not too uncommon to see it on like Medic or Demo. The 500 Magnum, same thing. It's not too uncommon to see it on Medic or Demo or Sharpshooter using it. Sometimes you see it on other classes too that just want a strong, lightweight weapon. Number 5, we have the RPG coming in from Demo. The RPG just hits like a truck. It does tons of damage with its one shot. It is a one-shot weapon, although you do kind of get 2 kinds of damage. Well, you actually technically get 3 types of damage because you get the explosion from the RPG itself. You get the shell of the RPG actually impacting something, which counts as 2 different types of damages. And you also have the backblast damage from just the backblast of the gun that can actually kill quite a few things. It does pretty high damage, or at least enough to kill any of the small Zeds that are directly next to you. There's only a few downsides to the RPG. You have to reload it after every shot, but it is a really heavy damaging weapon, and it is an RPG, so makes sense. And that it does have an arming distance, so you don't blow yourself up, which is probably a good thing, but it is kind of annoying once you end up accidentally hitting a stalker in the face with the RPG. Now, it would be worse if the RPG actually went off and, well, you killed yourself when a stalker was nearby. So I guess that's better than nothing, but still a little bit annoying. Coming in at number 4, we have the Arc Generator. The Arc Generator is a survivalist weapon, and this weapon is fantastic. I use it all the time on survivalist. I also use it all the time on medic. Now, it is heavy at 9 weight, and it is expensive at a tier 4 weapon, but this weapon does a really high amount of damage towards pretty much everything. You can use its primary fire to arc lightning towards enemies, which kills small enemies very fast. It kills medium enemies really quick too, and it can kill big enemies somewhat quickly. With its secondary fire, though, shooting out the electric orbs deals so much damage to just everything that you hit with it that you can kill pretty much everything, and even if you don't kill it, it still arcs lightning back and forth between enemies that it does hit, and it applies the EMP status effect to all enemies hit by it, so they can't use their special abilities while they're being hit by the lightning balls. It's incredibly strong at any sort of map that has hallways. Try to take it on Containment Station and try it out there. It's really good. The Arc Generator also deals double damage to all bosses with its secondary fire. So it's a fantastic boss weapon, at least if bosses are chasing after you, or if you're playing solo where they will only be chasing after you. It completely shreds bosses. Coming in at number 3, we got the Frostfang. The Frostfang is probably the best DLC weapon in the game. It's fairly cheap at just being a tier 3 weapon. It's fairly lightweight at 7, so you can take other weapons with it. And it's pretty much a meta weapon on all 3 of the classes that use it frequently, which are Berserker, Support, and Survivalist. It is one of the few weapons in the game that counts both as a range and a melee option, so you can block and parry with it. This weapon, like I said, can block and parry. It has the axe head on it that you can attack with. The axe head does do bonus damage if you freeze an enemy first and then start hitting them with it. Even if the enemy's not frozen, you can still kill small enemies with the axe. And even when you run out of shells with this weapon, you can still use the axe head on it, as well as it can freeze enemies, which is a huge plus. So all around fantastic weapon. Coming in at our number 2 spot, we have the Kaboom Stick. This is a demo weapon, and this thing is just insane. It does so much damage per shot. You can't injure yourself with it, which makes it fantastic. It will go off at any range. You can get extra mobility from this by firing both barrels and jumping into the air. That is awesome, and it does such a high amount of damage just from one barrel, but you can fire out both barrels at the same time, killing waves of enemies or just completely destroying any large enemy. Even if you don't completely destroy any large enemy, it's probably stumbling backward, so you have an opportunity to shoot it again. Just a great weapon. I love taking this on so many classes. I think I've taken this almost on every class, I would say. And then before we get to number 1, let's go over some honorable mentions. I have about 5 here that I would like to talk about pretty briefly, but I don't have any footage in the background, so just enjoy whatever the heck is going on back here. First up is the HRG nail gun. This weapon is really good on SWAT. It punches through enemies. It does really good damage. The piercing damage is really nice for SWAT. You can shoot it really quick, and it's very cheap. All of that, it's really good. It's a lot of value for SWAT. Second one is the railgun. Railgun does really high damage per shot. The main reason why I didn't put on here is just because the RPG outperforms it usually. That isn't always the case, but I didn't feel like I needed to put both of them on there. But you could swap them in and out if you would like. I wouldn't argue. Third one is the double barrel. This one, like the Centerfire, is just so cost effective. You get so much damage out of it, plus you get utility with being able to fling yourself with the double barrel. That's great, and it's just a fantastic weapon. It doesn't scale as well as something like the Centerfire, but it still does great damage at close range. Fourth weapon here is the AA-12. You just get a lot of damage with it. It's a great weapon. I really like it. It could also be on the list too. And then the fifth weapon is the Hemo Goblin. Hemo Goblin's really good, but it is kind of a little bit of a wonky weapon to get used to. Does do a lot for the team because it has good healing darts. It has better than average healing darts compared to the other medic weapons. And it also has the syringes that deal damage over time, slow enemies, and make it so that they are taking damage over time as well as bleeding out, which makes it so they can't do as much damage to your teammates. All around really great. It's really useful on boss wave. It's really good as a support weapon. You see it used pretty often on medic, and it's pretty good on Survivalist as well. And then our number 1 spot goes to the Medic Pistol. This one might seem a little bit anticlimactic because the Medic Pistol is so cheap, but that's kind of why it is up here. You could always put this at the bottom of the list too, because as a weapon, yeah, it's probably the weakest weapon that we've talked about here, but it's still an okay backup weapon if you completely run out of bullets with whatever your primary weapon and likely secondary weapon you're using. So you can use this as a backup weapon. It does scale well with upgrades, but its main advantage is that it only weighs 1 weight and you can heal with it. That's really good. You can also potentially find this on the ground, and it's good on any class with any setup, so long as you have the extra weight to have just 1 extra weight in your loadout. You're pretty much always going to take a Medic Pistol. It's going to pay for itself just for you healing your allies or for you killing a few Zeds with it, just the small ones that might be coming out early. It's actually a pretty good weapon to have on Gunslinger as well. It's a pretty legit weapon then, with it having no recoil and a fast rate of fire, fast reloads, and nice sights. Just all around a really solid weapon, and just for the utility alone, it gets the number 1 spot. So thanks everybody for coming here. I really do appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tell me what's your favorite or what you think are the 10 best weapons down below in the comments. I'd love to hear those. Special thanks to the supporters of the channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this, as well as a couple other rewards. If you are interested in that, be sure to check it out. And remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!